Yeah.
Welcome to a special, not really an episode of HughScape, where we talk about the new announcements from Renegade about the return of Age of Annihilation. We have the entire HeroScape Brady Brunch today. Do we want to go around and introduce ourselves? We have the HughScape guys. We have me, Alexandros, and then
Mm.
Cody, aka G Busy.
What's up, everybody?
Do you want to go around and maybe talk about like what projects we've got affiliated or what we got going on in HeroScape? Brag about
Well, I
ourselves a
mean,
little
we
bit
have
and give context.
we we have all but like what one or two members of NGC, I guess.
What is that? Is that like C3V?
Yeah, it's something like that.
All right, GBZ, what do
Northrop
you got
Grumman
going on?
Corporation. Well, I just got done packing for ScapeCon. I got all my stuff in the car, so that's fun. Rebasing a bunch of VC figures because I messed it up the first time. Message me for tips and tricks on that if you're planning on building an entire VC collection anytime soon.
On messing it up.
Um, Yeah, on messing it up. And I actually, it might have been you, but I talked to somebody about making a guide for it like a month ago. I'm glad I delayed that, because I learned some new stuff that's pretty important.
You would have taught
But
somebody else who also did it the wrong way for all 700 of their figures, and you're like, hold up, you should have followed the
yeah,
version of this guy that haven't even released yet.
yeah. And then they would have been, commenting on all the WhoScape videos.
Yeah.
This guy's selling snake oil.
Cody,
Anyway,
what's the ScapeCon event you're most excited for?
hmm, um,
And you're like ScapeCon
the
East.
one that I'll have to give you two. The one that looks the most fun, that something that mixes up a lot. I've never played it before. Assassin's Creed Heat of Battle looks really fun.
Okay.
That's gonna be later in the night. So like Heat of Battle, it's like you play all the. It's kind of like what the name says it is. All the figures are kind of placed away from each other, not in a start zone. And then you just start fighting. Like there's action right off the bat. And then I guess Assassin's Creed is you have like three heroes you designate as potential targets. But I think V Cheese might be contrary to what most people will go for. I think that actually might be one of the events I have the best chance of winning. I might be getting a little too confident there, but I feel pretty good about it.
You're going to be the next HeroScape World Champion, right?
I don't know, that world championship event looks pretty tough. A lot of pod type armies.
I
That's
mean,
professional.
the HeroScape World Championships is all about attracting the best players from all of America.
That's true. That's
It will be the most sweatiest event, Cody. Like, I think it'll be way sweatier than it was last year.
true.
And I didn't even play all of the games. I was like halfway through. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm going to lightweight.
Well, you didn't come to the last DC event and we had last month, but it was
No,
reverse the whip,
reverse the whip. Yeah.
and that was my first time playing that, and I beat Ben for the first time. I'm pretty happy in saying that. Earl Sandwich, you get me back on the
Yeah.
next one though.
Mm.
And so that was fun, but then I basically confirmed my suspicion in that that's the one main event that I don't want to play in for that day. I'm just gonna do side events that whole day, just
Mm-hmm.
because that's something I'd rather watch. Like
True.
that's like you have a deep knowledge of the game if you're playing that, I think,
So,
or you just want to mess around. But
going around the circle, Dandelions, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I showed up to this fandom very recently. HeroScape was big when I was growing up. It was by far my favorite thing to have around. But when I moved out, I couldn't really take a footlocker full of plastic terrain and minis with me. So I kind of fell off the HeroScape train for a good 12 or 13 years, I guess it's been. And then saw the Age of Annihilation crowdfunding last winter, I guess. Was very excited to see it coming back. Really kicked off the old interest again. Was very crushed to see it fail so spectacularly a couple of months later. However, I was like, all right, you know what? Even though the crowdfund has failed, I can still enjoy this game. I can still get back into it. It's still the battle of all time. So I have started collecting back. I've been a frequent customer at the claim sales run by some of the people in this video call, and then lo and behold, just about as I finish up my original collection, Age of Annihilation has been announced for its remake and revival for a second time. And so I'm very excited to see what HeroScape has to offer in the near future. In the meantime, I've become part of the group New Generation Customs, where we're essentially creating customs that you can 3D print. What will not be necessary is the list of Age of Annihilation proxies we put many hours into, but the rest of it should still be good and relevant by the time the Renegade starts rolling product out. That's Dandelions.
Oh man, we'll have to come back to that. Rogue, how about you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a rogue idealist. My channel is called the Roguescaper. Pretty much anything rogue related. I'm the rogue brand. My real name's Josiah. I've been in this fight since I was 9 years old. I've been pretty much a lurker just on the outskirts. I've browsed all the pages of HeroScapers, and after Age of Annihilation was announced, and just for some other factors in my life, I was just kind of to a point where I wanted to make some videos and just kind of get really involved in this community and this fandom, and just kind of really put myself out there. So I gained a little bit of confidence in that regard, and I've been working on painting tutorials and some other things I've got cooking. But I love this game. This game is a big component of my life. I pretty much the reason I do graphic design and writing and film and all that kind of stuff is because of this game. It just kind of gave me such a sandbox when I was little. I was like, pretty much a game that where anything can happen really inspires you to do anything type of situation. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm coasting on the HeroScape the drama all the time. It's here, it's not here, it's back again.
I'm glad that's the only drama in the community, though, is whether or not it's back.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
but we
otherwise
never
it's
argue
pretty
about
even
anything
keel.
else. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there. It's coming through choppy.
Oh yeah, no. So that's about it. Yeah, I'm just a guy in a big world with lots of plastic. So
All right, so we got Rogue the guy. Chad, you want to go next? Shiftrex?
Sure. Let's see. I am a member of NGC that's already been talked about a lot. Also, just became a sidekick over at C3G. That's a little bit more their inner staff.
Congratulations.
Superhero customs. Lots of fun stuff there. They're just about to kick off 2.0 a little bit later this year. Good rules revisions, good language updates. Doesn't look so much like a Mattel toy. And then I'm working on my own thing to release a little bit later this year, a Pokemon skirmish game. Should have the original 151 done in September, October to release. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, Caesar, are you going to come off mute for this one? Or are you just dropping in and listening? Or give him 5-10 seconds? See what he says.
Yeah, I'll just be listening.
Oh, you're just gonna drop in and listen live. All right, and then we've only got one Joe. So Joe Crazy, you want to tell us about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Hello. Yes, I am Joe Crazy. I am here to talk about what are we talking about? Actually, I got here way later than everyone else did. So what are
Yeah,
we?
we know.
Honestly, I don't feel like I need too much of an introduction in like story-based thing. Like I'm here for the conversation. We'll get to learn more about how I feel about everything soon enough. But Alexandros, what are we doing?
Oh, well, when I invited everybody, I was like, we should talk a little bit about the news we got from Renegade and kind of how we feel about that and what things look like. I have a couple questions I'll kind of direct to the group of y'all, and we can all take turns answering. But yeah, it's really just about the confirmation that the HeroScape relaunch is going to start with Age of Annihilation. That seems to be the insinuation. Before now, we really didn't have an idea exactly of what the form of this HeroScape relaunch looked like. I mean, you could take a pretty reasonable guess it was going to be about AOA, but we didn't know for sure. So I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity, since we have so many lovely faces here, and Caesar's stone stare, that I thought everybody should have the opportunity to introduce themselves and maybe prop up their project a little bit, or whatever they're working on, or what they do. You have a YouTube channel. I'll link to in the description. So
You're still talking to me?
yeah, we're still talking to you.
Well, I mean,
I'll-
yeah, but
Okay. Joe Crazy makes the loudest videos in HeroScape. Please go check him out. You're never gonna not hear him.
Well, oh,
They're
I didn't think of
wonderful.
it that way.
Yeah. I don't even just mean the
I
energy.
do-
I mean quite literally the volume level.
It's true. I boost the audio because I assume most people watch videos on their phone, and the phone's volume isn't that loud. So
I'm quite literally deaf in one here, and Joe Crazy's like, "Don't worry, man. I got you."
You know, it's funny. I told Joe recently, I think on a video we made, I think it was a HeroScape duel or something, but I usually save his videos for like Saturday morning. I like watch like a battle video and drink my coffee. Well, usually it's Joe that's waking me up instead of the coffee. Just like the voice coming through the screen, like, oh, I'm awake now.
No, that's about right. We love you, Joe. It's not. There's no hate there.
no, I know it. I know it's loud.
So, for those of you who are just tuning in, I guess we'll catch everybody up. If you haven't been paying attention to the Renegade Discord, Dandelions manifested the return of HeroScape Age of Annihilation. Basically, they just kept posting the "It's Back" HeroScape poster, and then has everybody seen this? The Dandelions been posting. They posted it probably 20 times in the Discord server. What they did is
I've seen it.
they photoshopped this banner that was just a black background, and in white text it said "It's Back," and it was a single grass X tile, and then the HeroScape logo. It was really funny. It looked super legit, and like every time they posted it, like the Renegade people were like, "Oh, that's funny," or like they Photoshop like Anshu into it or something. And then this weekend or Friday, while Renegade was at Gen Con, they started handing out these little pamphlets that were like HeroScape Age of Annihilation 2024, It's Back. And like part of me wants to think that they were just like, yeah, Dandelions had the right idea. Let's just say it's back. And then another part of me was like, yeah, but they probably had these like professionally printed, but maybe they just went on down to Kinko's. Like it's entirely possible that Dandelion's responsible for these little Gen Con flyers. I don't know. So what do y'all think? Has everybody seen the image I'm talking about?
I was tickled how close the official postcards read to the "It's Back" tagline, because everybody in the Discord chat for Renegade would just ask over and over again, like, "What news will we learn at Gen Con? What news will we learn at Gen Con?" And I was like, "It's Back" is the only thing they're going to tell us at Gen Con, and if we're lucky, they'll use the Age of Annihilation logo. And lo and behold, that is exactly what they did to us. But I can't say I'm complaining. I also have to say their use of that logo alone has created so much stir and so much conversation in the fandom. Thankfully, they have also, maybe it's jumping the shark in our conversation topics, but thankfully they did follow this up with actual texts from Mr. Scott Gata over in the Renegade server to say, in addition to us hypothesizing based on the logo, yes, everything we saw in the Age of Annihilation campaign will make its way back, including the stretch goals and crowdfunding exclusives.
I want to come back to this for reference. But
I bet. But I will say, before we move on from the previous period, shiftrex terrified me for weeks leading up to this announcement with jokes about how, because it had been shopped to Renegade, Hasbro's notorious IP crossover faction, that the only HeroScape that was going to come out was probably a My Little Pony set, a G.I. Joe set, and a Transformers set. And I am so relieved that that has not been the case. I was legitimately worried for a little while.
listen, I'll buy it all. I want Age of Annihilation in Classic 2, but I'll buy Transformers. I don't care.
Yeah, I'll take the Transformers one any day.
I'll listen, if the terrain's cool enough, I'll take My Little Pony. I said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. I want the Acid Trip Lisa Frank pastel color terrain. I want it. I want Spike to bond with the green scales. Right? I have no shame here. So I'll just divert really quick. There's this guy in DFW who is in like every trading game and miniature group, but all he cares about is horses. And the thing is, he's clearly neuroatypical, right? This is not a guy he's not weird about it. This isn't a sexual thing. This isn't a furry thing. But he'll be in the Magic groups and he'll be like, "Oh man, I gotta put this in my new horse deck," and it's just a picture of a guy on a horse, right? It's like a knight or something, and then like he'll jump in the HeroClix group and he'll be like, "Is it possible to build a team with just horses?" And we're like, I mean, yeah, technically, dude, that's totally possible. So I can't wait for him to come to HeroScape and be like, "Oh man, they made a set of just horses." Like, I'm waiting for this guy, and I know it's going to happen because he's in everything. He's in Pokemon groups. He's in Final Fantasy TCG groups. He collects D&D. If it's a horse, he does not care. So just for my sake, I really want the My Little Pony HeroScape set to get this guy in.
Could you just take a picture of the Templar Cavalry and send him that? Will that?
I should, but I get the impression that he maybe is on disability, so I'm hesitant to recommend that he get into an army that cost him $30 a figure and is also horrible.
Yeah.
Outside of
not in Delta, they're not. Yeah, there you go. There you
go. There's my asterisk, so people don't mob me in the comments. Oh man, so we're talking about the Nick Medding, or it wasn't Nick who said it, right? It was Scott who made those comments, right? About everything from the campaign being included. I don't know how to feel. I maintain that until I see those figures in my hand, there is a possibility that there was a miscommunication, that they're still not coming. And I know that sounds crazy, but I feel vindicated today after the timed exclusive conversation. I would not be surprised if Hasbro was like, "Oh, hold up, just to be clear, you can't have those two. We said we can't ever make them, so we can't make them." I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me at all. So, to me, I just assume we're going to get everything but the Dragoon and the... Man, I can't remember these names. Is it the Thyraxis? Or Scabbard? Scabbard's the other figure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Scathereth, yeah.
Yeah.
Scathereth, the Ironclad Collective, and the Dragoon is the Nemesis Warbird.
But even if we get everything but those two, that's way better than what we thought we were getting 3 months ago. So,
Sure.
I'll take what we can get.
Yeah, I kind of need Scathereth, though, because the Ironclad only has 3 cards, so I kind of need that 4th.
I'm with you, Joe.
Round them out.
Ironclad all the way.
I always feel bad because when I try to list off the 5 Age of Annihilation factions, that's the one I can never remember. I'm like, yeah, man, we got the Combine, we got the Bugs, we got the Giants, we got the Pirates, and that's it. But those is the 4. So I would like to see the Eisenach maybe get a little more.
Well, doesn't it feel weird because I feel like as soon as the campaign ended, maybe because of the disappointment, it was like, you know what? I got to move past this. We moved past it, forgot everything about it. And then as you guys at NGC were like slowly bringing stuff back up, and I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, yeah. And then like this release was like, right, that was there. And then all the memories were coming back. And so we're going, I've been going through the page the past week or so, and we're like, yeah, okay, right.
Joe, isn't that
I was like almost, I was reliving everything.
Isn't it crazy? I was going to bring this up once we started talking about AOA. Isn't it crazy that AOA is already like nostalgic in your mind? Like you just said, like to me, AOA, that period of time
Really sad.
of my life is already nostalgic, and it was only a year ago. But like, think about that. That's why HeroScape is, I don't know. That's part of the reason why it's so huge for me. So AOA already being nostalgic to the HeroScape community is like, yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome.
Listen,
I'm the Dr. Manhattan right now. It's 2004. I'm playing HeroScape. It's 2022. Yeah. I'm playing HeroScape. It's 2024. I'm
it's
playing
2010. HeroScape has been canceled. It's 2022. HeroScape has been canceled. No, so I feel like Renegade has people like living in my walls trying to like ruin my life because the moment I spent $20 to ship Joe Crazy all those NGC proxies, they're like, no, drop it. Now that he doesn't need them, he shipped those out. We're going to release the official stuff. We're just going to waste all that. So, I mean, it's what it is, But, I mean, I only painted the entire Clockwork Combine, and now I get to paint them again. And see which models I want to keep. I'm probably still going to use those proxies in my house for a long time. I'll have fun with them. That's the thing.
As you should, because yeah.
That's the thing. It's like I don't.
No, go ahead.
No, sorry.
A piece of history too.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like in the Facebook way. I bet they feel silly now. It's like, no, I had a lot of fun. I'm doing this for me. I'm glad y'all are having fun too. But I do what I do here because I like doing it. It's not because I care about like what some sweaty guy who has never actually talked to me but laugh reacts on my posts thinks. Like and also I think the infrastructure for continuing to create homebrew and customs is really important. So like I know there are a couple people who have asked like what we're going to do with that. We've talked about contingencies before and we haven't decided which path we're taking, but I don't think there's anybody in the group who's like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. We're all like, yeah, we want to do it. We just aren't exactly sure what that shape looks like. There's a silhouette where we haven't figured out the specifics.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, while we're talking about the proxies, a shout out to Rogue for some incredible print and paint jobs.
Oh my gosh,
the latest photos you've shared of the Zed Nesbit that you've. Oh, there he is. Clear flight stands, big gear engine hanging off the back of the blimp, like room on the blimp for other people to be like such a cool mini. Amazing work. That said, if anyone is watching this and hasn't had context on what NGC is or what we've been up to, one of the first, really like a couple of weeks after the Age of Annihilation campaign ended, I and a couple others in the HeroScapers Discord server were like, they showed us all the cards though. We could print minis for these, like, if they never come back to this. And that was kind of the messaging of the time, that it was going back in the vault. Hasbro wasn't going to consider it. There was not a healthy expectation we'd ever see Age of Annihilation again, even if they did reboot it 5 years down the line. So the concept for us was, this is still material. We would still love to see it on the table. Let's find a way to make that accessible to the fandom and make it something that they could use with some regularity as to like what minis they want to use. And that goes hand in hand with wanting to encourage or at least support 3D printing as an option when it comes to the fan community, which seems healthy in a game that has $300 dragons as miniatures. So that said, we've worked on a couple things, including a proxy page that systematically we like voted and sorted through minis for printing to be each of those Age of Annihilation figures. That's probably the thing that's going to be the biggest hit now, since we're not going to need proxies for these, which is awesome. And then the second thing was that for a couple of missing minis, I believe 7 or 8, we created rule cards for those as well, since they were never officially revealed. I personally am very excited to see what some of the officials look like for this now that they're coming out, because we have spent probably weeks of our lives trying to figure out a working draft for an Oathbound Phalanx and Legionnaires. I think out of all the NGC designs, we've spent the most time and the most iterations on that. So I'm very eager to see what the real thing looks like. And similarly with Zed, I've gotten to playtest Zed recently, had so much fun. I love what NGC has come up with, but I'm also very curious to see now what that starts to look like for the thing that'll come in a box in 2024.
See, to me, that's actually like the biggest L for me taken from this. Is like I'm actually okay with losing most of this work, with the exception of the factional identity we designed for the Combine, because I hope I'm wrong. I would be ecstatic if I am. I do not ever expect RenegadeScape to kind of explore design space that creative. I would really love if they did. I really like where we were with Combine, but I don't expect theirs to do it. So it'll be interesting to see, and I also wouldn't be surprised to see some of those ideas repurposed if we were too far off the mark. So, yeah, and for context, what you were saying, there was less time between the failure of Age of Annihilation and us starting this project than there was between the start of this project and today. By like a month and a half, actually. Like it wasn't a small difference. So, yeah, there's a framework there I think most of us are interested in keeping, not to hijack this whole conversation. But, yeah, that did seem like it was a common question in the threads. All right, now what happens to these guys? So, what was your initial reaction when you heard the Age of Annihilation was coming back? Other than, I was right.
Other than that, honestly, it's like I know I commented on Tabletop Bros first video talking about this about like I don't see it being 2024. I feel like it's going to be a lot longer than that. Only because one of the whole things they were talking about during the campaign was that they needed all that money was for the tooling. I'm like, okay, but where are you making the stuff? Like, you didn't have any of the sets built or like like ready to be shipped yet. Like, you still have to make all that stuff. You don't know how many people you're making it for now, and now you have to redo the marketing, and now you have to repackage everything because we're not getting the Vanguard box. That's not what they're going to be selling us. So now they got to separate all of this stuff up, remarket it, then, figure out the tooling and the pricing and all that. So, like, if you're telling me that you're doing all of that in 1 year, and then maybe we'll have it maybe they're looking at holiday next year.
So
but
actually,
I'm thinking early 2025.
No, they actually said we'll be playing at Next Gen Con. So let me ask you this: when you say we won't have a 2024, do you mean all of it or anything?
I'm gonna say anything.
Now,
And
I want to.
Now, go ahead.
I want to throw on my tinfoil hat for a second. I thought you were going this direction for a second, so I wanted to throw this in there.
Sure.
What if there's already minis being made and put into boxes? Is that a possibility?
We're close to that point.
There's no way. They didn't even have a director. They were looking for. There was that whole debacle with looking for somebody for the job. Like, they don't have.
I gotta push back on this. So when they posted that posting, there were people who responded with, "Okay, so I guess that means you guys aren't developing." And I don't remember which Renegade Studios employee it was, but I remember this happened. Dandelions can probably back me up on this. They said, or we're so confident in the game's future that we need to develop beyond our initial product offering. Here's what I think is most likely. We will have some kind of product by late next spring, and it is not going to be all of Age of Annihilation. We know from this press release they're talking about terrain packs, they're talking about faction boxes. To me, it's not hard to envision a starter set with, like, some of the ROTV terrain that was repurposed in Age of Annihilation, and either the trees or the walls, and then 2 factions. Probably 2 that exist on the same planet. So either the Combine and the Collective, or why am I forgetting the Dry Lifeline Order and the Lifeline Order and the Nemesis War Group, right? So I could see us by next year having a starter set with those figures and a small amount of terrain and some kind of purchasable add-on pack, with the plans to have more product out within 3 months. Because those figures were already designed. We know that they could be molded. The only one that we never really saw, to the best of my knowledge, that wasn't an exclusive was Zed. But I don't think we ever saw a physical print of Zed. For all we know, they're going to screw with that model more. But that wasn't at Toy Fair or what was the event last fall where they showed off the huge shelf of figures? He wasn't there.
New York Comic Con.
Yeah, New York Comic Con. Sorry, not Toy Fair. But I don't know. I actually think we could be seeing stuff by, like, May. I would actually expect the lead time to be more like 6 months. And they don't have to do a whole lot of design work. They really just have to get things in a finishable state. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if discussions about this started a lot sooner than we knew for sure that they were happening. I wouldn't be surprised if they already had a month or 2 of dev work in before they announced this deal. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not like 100% sure on this, but I just feel like it's pretty bad marketing to announce these things too far ahead of when you actually plan to sell them. People's attention span is terrible. Jerk because he doesn't even remember how we started this conversation. Right.
So
So
I did. I did. Okay. Okay. We were talking about my.
I'm just teasing. I'm sorry. Yeah. But no, I am cautiously optimistic that we'll see at least one major release before Gen Con next year.
No, actually, I like your theory about the master set, and having two factions, because looking at Warhammer and them doing 10th edition and releasing their own, I don't know what they call them, their master sets, but their giant $250 box
Or battle
with
forces or whatever.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're two factions, and and you have to go do whatever with. But yeah, that's literally probably what they might do. Absolutely.
But I wouldn't be
I
surprised.
just want to be proven wrong.
No, I mean I'll buy HeroScape.
I don't want it to be 2025.
It was coming up earlier in the Discord chat in Renegade, not from anyone official, but just fans badgering around as they do. That if they did that model, because they've been upfront, they're like, you will see all of it. Release dates to be determined. I really would not be surprised if the Age of Annihilation content is split. If we get that more over the course of like a year in total, rather than all upfront, all 5 factions. And then secondly, it would open up the opportunity if they're only releasing like a starter box, with 2 factions, and a couple of smaller expansions along the way, that they might be able to get us some common material for those factions early on as well, which is something I would hope they'd prioritize for pre-order for Wave 1 launch, just because that's the thing we can buy in bulk for those figures. There are some of us that will buy like 4 copies of Zed Nesbit, but if they even had one common squad available as something you could buy individually for the Combine or for the Eisenek or whichever faction to make it into the starter box, you're going to see multiples on those with most of these orders that are incoming. I would possibly expect.
Well, but also,
Yeah.
you want to think about what these releases look like to people who've never played HeroScape before. So let's imagine you've never heard of HeroScape, and then you see the game being in with your game store and say, okay, I want to go pick up product off the shelf. And incidentally, let's just say I'm right about what that initial product release looks like. Starter set, 2 different factions, maybe there's a purchasable terrain pack. All those units are unique. So you're kind of like developing this perception with this prospective player. Okay, cool, I can just buy one of these boxes and be done with it. How bad is it going to feel a year later when they release the box you want to buy 4 of? It's have a playable army, right? Like I don't know that that's a good look, and I'm not saying that you need to cover every element of HeroScape in initial launch. Like it's not a reasonable expectation, but I think that's kind of like a core tenet you really want to catch within the first 6 months. Ideally from like month 1. I think it's just sorry.
Oh, no, sorry about that. Didn't mean to. I was going to say, if I was going to pick a product that I want to buy, I'd like to see small side boxes that have my unique heroes in them. Like faction style is fine, this
Sure.
versus this type of thing. But I'd like to see terrain with common squads. If terrain's even going to be with figures, like we need commons released in some capacity at the beginning of the game. Otherwise, it's really not going to be that good. Not for the rest of us that have played this whole time. This is a game where you play commons. So if you're just going to chuck them out, yes, you'll get new players. But you're not going to see these pieces played at any of the grassroots events unless there are army builders.
Not on their own. Maybe to comment the army builders we already have from how many years of Classic. But I saw somebody, or was it Vecna, I think, on this morning. It's like, oh, well, we had Rise of the Valkyrie in July, and we didn't have Wave 1 until January. It's like, sure, but that release, like, with the intention of a lot of players just picking up Rise of the Valkyrie at Walmart. There's no way this version of HeroScape has that exposure. It's marketed to a more involved gamer crowd, almost certainly. You might see this at GameStop next to the discounted HeroQuest products, but I don't think that you see. You don't see this at Walmart, right? Like, has anyone seen any other Renegade products at Walmart? The Power Rangers game or the Transformers Tech Woman game?
I think I saw Robo Rally last
Oh,
time I went
sure.
to Target.
I believe that. Well, isn't that also partially like? Isn't that who publishes that? I know that it's Avalon Hill's brand, but I don't know that they actually distribute it.
I've seen Betrayal at House on the Hill at Walmart before.
So that actually, I think, is Avalon Hill.
Yeah.
You're talking about Renegade.
talking
Yeah,
about
I guess
Renegade.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about Renegade. Yeah.
I've seen 10
Yeah.
copies of Monopoly, I think, at Walmart. That's about it.
Yeah. I
100%.
well, we all know that the Magic the Gathering board game section is meant for copies of Wingspan and also Universes Beyond Ravnica Murders at Markov Manor Clue Edition.
That's really specific.
Did you hear about that? I'm not going to get too far into that, but like they announced a Magic product that's also a game of Clue. Like it's meant for both
I can't believe
audiences.
I can't believe you just rattled it off like that.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what I'm impressed by.
It's because I'm on the spectrum.
That's- We've had this conversation before, yeah.
That's why I can remember phrases like that. That corporations feed me, but not like
It's incredible.
not anything that would be useful. I'm not like I'm not the brain surgeon on the spectrum. I'm like the remembers marketing buzzwords on the spectrum. I should be careful with this topic. Anyway, my point is, I wouldn't expect to see these at Walmart or Target. So you kind of have to get a more involved, serious crowd. And I'm not saying like design the kind of game that you still can't you can't teach 8-year-olds anymore. I'm just saying that like you do want to give those hobbyists an outlet. You know what I mean? Like you want to give the people who want to be really invested in your game an opportunity to get really invested. And I don't mean the kind of invested that is Leafit and I crisis buying 8 copies of Age of Annihilation each because for the love of God we want this game to come to print. I mean like an actual like genuine healthy relationship dynamic between your consumer and your product developer that isn't fear-based. So, you know, maybe that's too personal, but I see Dandelions cracking up over there.
Oh man, the mentality shifted so much because we don't want to get into why Age of Annihilation's crowdfunding failed in this conversation because then that's the conversation for the next hour. But
if not more.
The horses.
Suffice it. Oh, that horse is so long gone. So many horses. That one guy would be really happy. But that said, yeah, it was very fear-based, at least towards the end, because we realized that no one else is seeing this outside of our community. So it's all on us to do it. And so we have complete people who don't have $2,000 discretionary income buying $2,000 into the Age of Annihilation crowdfund. Well, and it's still, people are like taking out loans on their Volkswagens, and it's still not enough. Like for the fandom, I think that's part of why Age of Annihilation comes with these feelings of caution, is because we remember like a lot of negativity associated with just being in the situation that we were in a year ago.
Well, so a lot of people don't know this, but the reason that Avalon Hill couldn't spend more time talking about Age of Annihilation or pushing it to other audiences was because Hasbro was spending so many resources working on Universes Beyond Ravnica Murders at Markov Manor Clue Edition. So, you know, you really have to pivot all your energy to other upcoming titles. No, it was so weird because, like, day one I was like, oh shit, like, that's $250. I just told a lot of people that they could reasonably expect to spend like $150 on a little start set at most. And then they made a fool out of me because I thought that they were going to design a game that people would want to buy. And then they didn't. And then it was just, a month and a half of panicking? How long was the campaign? Like 45 days?
Yeah.
Felt like 2 years.
Oh my god, dude! I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy like 8 or 9 copies, like the most I could reasonably, comfortably afford with my like extra income, knowing that it's not gonna happen. I was like, there's no way. The only way this happens is if somebody like who commits credit card fraud operates a bot. Like that's how we get to 8,000, and then who knows if they just pull out the rug from under us.
out of all the talented people in the HeroScape community, there isn't one person that could pull that off.
You
I
just
found that
know
out.
somebody considered it.
Yeah, there's someone out there for sure. For sure.
On the
I will say, Rogue, go ahead for sure.
I was just gonna make a quick comment on the art side. Those figures, they're definitely introducing the model hopping community to this, but like the models are gonna be so easy to paint. They're gonna look so great once they're painted. They're just the way like their texture and their forms are designed. They're designed for a beginner painter. They're not like I painted some other things and they're just a nightmare to paint. Like the combine's biggest draw is that like you just dry brush over their fur and it will look great. Like it's gonna that's the part I'm most excited for is those models are just gonna look delicious on the table.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. It's just like I don't think that there's like if you don't have commons, there's like no way for the wargamer to really put themselves into it.
Necessarily. I think the game as it is now already has way too many army combinations for Squadscape. So I think we do need some more unique only armies. I've been playing the Varkanons recently, as an all unique. There are squads in there, but it's not Squadscape. It's not like 4 squads or 4th mass or something. It's there's like 2 or 3 squads of like 2 or 3, 4 characters, and then heroes, and they're all uniques. And I've been loving it. I think the game needs more options like that to combat it against the Squadscape plays, because every game, and you guys are gonna see it when you guys go to EscapeCon, majority of the armies, all the armies are gonna be 3 or more squads of something.
Yeah, I'm not averse to. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm not averse to more unique only armies. I just don't think the game can be unique only for like a year after it launches.
Trust me. Like, we're gonna want to see what a common squad of Darn Raiders looks like. I don't know if that's even possible. What would be common in Darn Raiders? I could see commons. What?
He said historical.
They would finally get those historical pirates that Facebook keeps asking for.
Bro.
It all look the same. They wouldn't be special in any way, but they would not have any cool cyber eye patches or anything, and they would finally be quiet.
Well, we already have those in VC.
True.
Buccaneers. They're impossible to find, but
No, those are rogues.
oh, those are rogues.
They
That's
are
their class.
Yeah, look at the side of their card.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
Here's what really. Also, they're like astronomically expensive because for some reason you can't find those pirate minis anyway. But here's what I'm really hoping for. It's never going to happen. This is a pipe dream. I would like them to go back to the table for some of these designs that they forced to be unique and did not have to be. The Void Burrowbreaker is literally in lore a generic. There are multiple Void Burrowbreakers. There is no reason that this design could not be an uncommon hero other than that they didn't want people to have to buy multiple boxes to feel like they had to run multiple. But you're separating the products enough to just make the Badger with the cool power drill and uncommon, please, for the love of God. Why can't there be more than 5 days of the Silver Scimitar?
It's a classic Zedian Guard sort of problem.
No, absolutely. Zedian Guards would be fine.
Zedian Guards I bring up because at least in the, maybe not the final draft of the episode, but the first script, like, there's hundreds of Zedian Guards. They are to the Zedian Combine what Omnicron snipers are to the Omnicron group.
Right.
So, like, but unfortunately, even though they don't do too much on their own and they're quite expensive and they sort of lumber around behind Deathwalker, you can still only ever have 2 of them.
So speaking of like a Zedian like common squad though, if anybody has the Zedian infantry, I know I've talked about this on a few different podcast forums, but I talked to you recently, Joe, about the super battle droids, right? I don't know about, Rogue, you being the big Star Wars fan. I don't know how you feel about those. I didn't like them until I got some off eBay recently for pretty cheap, and I put them next to Deathwalkers, and I was like, yeah, they make sense. That makes sense now that I saw it in person. I was like, wow, they actually do look pretty close to what you would expect a common Soulborg Deathwalker faction figure to look like.
Throwback to the first
that-
episode of HeroScape. There. Sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Yeah. So no,
I get that they're limited by the pre-painted. That's why, being able to find some cool robot minis just to paint black and have an extra Deathwalker and use this card's powers, which I think work really well with the Deathwalkers, is great. But I don't want to comment further on the Battle Droids. I know they had to do what they had to do, but I can't just I just can't. My heart.
Well, so the other thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, not I have 5 squads of them now. They're pretty cheap minis to get a hold of, actually, which is another huge thing they got going for them. But now that I just put them on the table earlier, and I like put like whatever Warden 816 out and some other Soulborg figures, and they just like if you can have suspension of disbelief just for a moment, they fit in perfectly. You just have to like turn that Star Wars switch off in your brain. But yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
I don't know if y'all have heard of this podcast. It's a little lesser known, but there's this podcast named WhoScape. And in the first episode, they had Dadscaper from the Age of Annihilation War Council on. And he was talking about his time with VC. I don't know if y'all caught this, but we actually came onto the conversation with Super Battle Droids. And his answer makes so much sense to me, and I'm ashamed to say it never occurred to me. But basically what he's getting at is that there is a generational gap. We are all like 20 years younger than the people who were making decisions for VC 10 years ago. I know that sounds crazy, but like those guys didn't grow up with Star Wars. Like it didn't even register to them that Super Battle Droids would be so recognizable because it wasn't what Star Wars was to them when they were kids.
Right.
See, I don't know if I buy that because my dad and everybody in that generation, guess what they saw at the movie theater? They saw episodes 4 through 6, and they all cringed when episode 1 came out, and when episode 2 came out, and when episode 3 came out. Like, the VC is a little inconsistent, especially on what's recognizable. Go and try and submit a D&D figure that's like very recognizable D&D, and watch how fast you get drop kicked.
Well,
That's kind of like implying that D&D is more recognizable than Star Wars. That's just not a thing at all.
The crowd's younger now, though. A lot of those people are phasing out. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And for what it's worth, for Star Wars at least, I know this sounds crazy because I think The Phantom Menace is fun, even though it's bad. There were a lot of people who were so angry at The Phantom Menace that they stopped caring. It was not uncommon for people like 15, 20 years older than us to watch The Phantom Menace and be like, oh, I don't care anymore. And then just not go see Attack of the Clones. So, yeah, they probably did see Super Battle Droid toys at Walmart. And then maybe they watched the movie once. But it's not what Stormtroopers are, if that makes sense. Like, they're still recognizable, but...
I mean, absolutely, but you could still grab that smattering of people that still cared about Star Wars, cut that in half, and then cut it in a tenth, and you would still have more people in that group than played D&D ever.
Oh, sure. I think that they got really beaten down after the Super Battle Droid thing, so now it's on the radar. Because the infantry are like almost 12 years old now, right? Aren't they like 2011? Like they're old.
Yeah, they're old.
12 years is close to death for normal people. So, oh man, Rogue, it was really funny. It was really funny you were talking about minis being more paintable. I think that's generally true. I will say that I think there are some minis that are so flat in some of these sets that I think they're going to be hard for a lot of the new novice painters to paint because I feel like so much of the painting market now is like, yeah, just listen, even if you're an idiot, you can prime this white and use contrast paint. It's going to just fill in the details. And then on like Imperator Kane, there are no details. Like, it's just a smooth surface. So like if you can use contrast paint with that, it's just like, okay, well, where did your brush apply more paint? Because then it's going to look darker. Like, you actually have to, like, use old school paint. It'd be interesting to see, like, that and Z2, where you get the really flat blimp.
Yeah, some of them are kind of weird. I think the Eiseneck are going to be the hardest for people to paint just because of the mash of metal and skin.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it's been a while since I've seen the figures, but I remember I was excited for them. But I paint a lot more than a lot of people, so I'm probably disconnected at this point. So don't take my words as at face value. I'll certainly be teaching people how to paint and making videos on that. So I'm excited though. They look like fun characters regardless. I love all the Eyes and Neck minis, but I don't know if I like the faction. Like if that makes sense.
Hey,
Yeah,
Rogue, not
yeah.
to change the subject too much. What do you use to paint? Like, what paints do you use?
Usually with a
Vallejo.
brush.
I use
Yeah, like a brush. Yeah.
everything. I use pretty much like pigments crushed from berries and no, I am not a brand loyalist. Let's see here if I can do this.
Oh my
But
gosh, same.
no, I have on my desk here I have Pro Acryl, I have Army Painter, I have Vallejo, I have Reaper, I spent a lot of time really figuring out the scape colors and the way to, kind of do it. So I have a broad ingredient list of paints to really kind of mimic the colors and color matching for the scape figures.
I don't know about you, Rogue, but I hate when new painters ask me how to paint something because I know that they're going to see 6 different brand names and be like, oh, I'm good. Because I'll be like, yeah, so I primed this in Tamiya fine white primer, and then I used this Army Painter speed paint and this Games Workshop Citadel contrast paint, and then I used this P3 paint for highlights, and then I used this enamel wash, and then I used this green. I'm like, it looks terrible. I should just buy a starter set from one manufacturer and be bad that way. It would cost me way less money, and I'd be able to have better conversations with people. But it's at least funny to me, like because people get lost in the miasma of it. So, but
To
no,
me, I just bought a bunch of Reaper paints, and I'm just like dealing with it. It's at being bad for now. So, but I think I might pick up some speed paints like you got. Like
Speed paints are great.
For squads. It seems like the way to go.
yeah, I'm constantly testing my relationship with my fiance because I'll paint a miniature and I'll like hold it far away from her face and like, does this look good? And she'll like try to close. I'm like, no, 3 feet. That's all I need. If it looks good from 3 feet, it's fine for HeroScape. Like that's what I'm gonna see it from across the table. So if you look at it up there, you're gonna see that it's like anti-cross-eye, like they're facing opposite directions. But if you see it from over here and it looks vaguely skeleton-y, then we're great. That's awesome. That's what a Mara should look like.
While it's on the radar, the Age of Annihilation confirmation notes a couple of things. It notes that Renegade is not doing just a reprint, fully painted replica of Rise of the Valkyrie, which a certain portion of the fandom seems to want at any given time.
Why?
Don't do that, Renegade. Outrage on that aside, it also confirms most likely that these are not going to be pre-painted, as a group of people who remember 2005 very fondly would wish it to be. So, what do we think about the fandom's response to these probably being unpainted versus the perspective of new hobbyers who are finding this for the first time? Because we're in the awkward position where we've got a base of fans who've been playing for 20 years, who are very invested, but at the same time, Renegade has to make choices that will appeal to people on game store shelves presently, who are probably, like, once this goes back on game store shelves, there's got to be more than 4,000 people that look at this game.
Yeah, Chad, what do you think?
So,
Oh, geez, me?
Yeah, you haven't said anything, so I'm going to throw you under the bus. I'm like a school teacher.
Oh, of course. I think Unpainted is great. 100%. I see that there are honestly very few people that are that turned off by it. They just happen to be very vocal. They like to post a bunch of times on Facebook, repeatedly on everyone's post. I think it's going to be really, really good for the game. Would it be good if it was unpainted and looked like it did in 2004? Yes, that would be great. But that's just not the reality today. I think it's going to bring in some people that can be very passionate about the game, that are going to put a lot of love and time into the game. And those are the kind of people that you want to see at ScapeCon, that you want to see playing this game with us. It's very positive, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Painting's a very personal experience. It's like you paint that figure, it's yours. It may not look great. It may have blotchy paint and crisscross eyes, but it's yours. You did this, and you get to show it off on the table when you get better over time. And And people are going to be really putting their money where their mouth is, because people will paint and will resell it. I plan on doing that kind of stuff, and if they're really willing to pay for pre-painted, there's going to be pay the community. Don't pay, just pay it back into the community. If you're really that adamant, someone will paint it for you, type of situation.
I really respect
Yeah,
you tripping over yourself to make sure that you say don't pay children who don't have great legal laws. Like that's great that we're paying each other to do this, like rates we agree on, rather than people who don't have a choice. I'm sorry to cut you off, Cody. Cody, what's your perspective on this?
No, you're good. I just hadn't thought about that perspective that Chad just threw out there, and like Dandelions, I refound HeroScape. I played back in like the early 2000s when it came out until like I graduated high school, and then 2013 I didn't play it again for like another 10 years, really, more than once, like a year maybe. But then the pandemic happened, and we all had free time to get back into old hobbies and whatnot. And that's what I did. But when I discovered HeroScape this time, it was a smaller community full of like really talented people, as we've talked about before, really caring people. Those are the only people really left, I feel like, minus a few, people complaining about paint on Facebook. But yeah, I think it's honestly, it might be a good thing. It might be a good thing that maybe paint is like a barrier to entry to people that don't care much, and might ruin that's the community that's been built over the past 12, 15 years, however long the game's been out. 20 years, I guess now, close to that.
So
yeah,
what you just said, I think, brings me to 2 points. And the first is you mentioned the people on Facebook. A lot of those people who are complaining haven't actually been here. Just for fun, the next time you see somebody in the Facebook HeroScapers group who is being obstinate and irrational and asinine and insists it has to be pre-painted, Facebook has a wonderful tool where you can check their activity in that group. And if you check their activity in that group and you don't see anything but complaining about Age of Annihilation, I would just encourage you to never listen to that person again. Like, you can tell if a person has been active in the community, especially in moments like right now where there hasn't been that much time to complain about it. And it's all people who are just like liking each other's comments, being negative, or like, well, I don't understand why they can't do this because WhoScape's pre-paints this. Which I want to put this on the record here. WhoScape's pre-painted miniatures look like garbage. I have bought WhoScape's pre-painted miniatures for 20 years, and I would rather pay money for a nice, detailed, unpainted miniature that I can screw up myself than pay 4 times as much for one that they screwed up for me. They just premiered mini. I'm sorry to get to preach about this because I see Dandelions cracking up in the corner. They just premiered a mini at Gen Con that's supposed to be, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Sleipnir, the Norse horse god. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Sleipnir. Who cares? It's Thoroid, right?
There's somebody who's going to be pretty excited about that.
Right. Well, sure. They're like, look at these phenomenal sculpts. We're doing better painting than we ever had. So it's this horse with like 6 legs, which the horse guy's going to love because that's 50% more horse, right? But moving on to the paint job, the whole thing is black, and then the saddle is a different shade of black. There are exactly 2 colors on the sculpt. There are no wash. There are no highlights. They're charging more for this set and putting less figures in every booster. We're not paying $18 a booster for 4 figures. WizKids sells, you can go on D&D Mini right now, which is owned and operated by WizKids, and buy a 6-figure pack of zombies that are all standard size. Who wants to, and if you already know, don't spoil it, who wants to guess how much 6 zombies cost? For reference, HeroScape's MSRP for 6 zombies in 2007 was $12.99. Who wants to guess how much it costs from WizKids at dndmini.com?
25.
37.
Rogue knows. Chad's got it. $49.99 for 6 minis. That is almost $10. I painted 18 zombies in an hour that look at least a little bit better than the HeroScape ones did. It's really that easy. Like,
to be fair, that's about what 2 squads of zombies in Morndan cost right about now.
Yeah, sure.
$25 each.
Yeah. But the idea that we want to pay $10 a figure, it's like, okay, cool. Surely that's sustainable when you want 5 of the squad and there's 4 figures to a squad, and this happens 10 times a year. Everybody can pay $2,000 just to keep up with the comments before they buy any terrain or unique sets, or before they buy and keeping up with the game. I mean, I wish it was realistic. I honestly, it's not impossible to envision a world 10 years from now where even the pre-painted minigames we have don't exist anymore. Like, the world is changing, labor laws are changing. I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into nothing of that. But, I mean, it's not... All you have to do is go to the grocery store. Like, you can see prices changing constantly. And the thing about pre-painted minis is it, like, all of the cheap cost was that we were paying literal pennies per hour for labor. And those countries have decided that they're worth several more pennies per hour. So, I think that's a good thing, but it just means that we have to give up things like not painting our own minis. Or we have
and
Sorry, go ahead.
no, okay. I was gonna say, well, yeah, and to pull things in a more positive light, like painting also gives you another unique thing that nobody really does in Scape. If I sit across from Joe here and I play the same old Nilfheim army with green scales, you're not going to remember that out of the other 14,000 Nilfheim games with green scales. But if mine are red, you're probably going to remember them. Unless Renegade wants to drop kick us out for custom paint jobs, all my stuff is going to be non-standard paint jobs. You're always going to see swag on stuff. I hope everybody actually does that. Because right now, like Tony Stark, Necroblade, he likes to paint green scales blue, and I don't think anybody looks at that without a little bit of anxiety and apprehension of seeing actual green scale figures painted.
So, here's my take on the Age of Annihilation review. If you're a tournament organizer, you gotta accept that being unpainted is gonna bring hobbyists to this game, and that's great. Please don't be a weenie about it. If someone brings a miniature that's uniquely painted and has cool basing, maybe they put a neat rock by their figure's feet or some skulls, don't be that guy that says technically it obscures the hit zone. You can infer where the feet were. If somebody has a cool mod, why don't you just be excited that that person is passionate about the game? And by the way, if you're the kind of dork that would call a judge on your opponent for doing something like that, I feel very strongly about you, and I'm going to say mean things about you behind your back. That's my official position. I really feel, what I want everybody to keep in mind, it's not anybody here who would be a problem with this, it's like, the community that we have for HeroScape is amazing. We have a phenomenal community who's really passionate about this game. It's also pretty small. I hate to say it, it's big for a dead game, but this community won't be enough to keep this game alive. And we have to ask ourselves, not just what can we do to reach out to more people who are like-minded, who would play this game if they knew about it, but what can we do to attract other personality types, other hobbyists, casual players, people who are heads over heels about scenarios? What can you do to make these people feel welcome? Stop thinking about what you've done for the last 10 years all the time. Expand your mind a little bit. Think about what you're going to do to get people down at your local game store into this game, and maybe they'll open their mind to the kind of way you want to play. You don't know. But if the game dies in a year and a half because we can't expand the community and we shut people out for not playing the way we already did, we're all losers. Nobody's better off for that. So that would be my, if I could impart one piece of wisdom. Sorry.
You're hyping me up, Lex. That sounded like a JFK speech. We do these things not because they're easy, but because they are hard.
Listen, I live way too close to Dallas for you to compare me to JFK. For the love of God, be careful.
No, you're absolutely right, Lex, because one of the biggest reasons that I started making content for YouTube was when I'm a YouTube guy. I love watching YouTube content. So when I got back into this game, the first thing I did was, because at that time I was watching a lot of Halo videos, I was watching Fortnite videos, I was watching all this stuff, and well, actually, Fortnite wasn't out yet, was it? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. When I was looking in for games and stuff, I was like, all right, HeroScape. There's got to be like hundreds of YouTubers. 7 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old, like all these videos like from decades ago. And I'm like, where's everyone? Like, and Sir HeroScape's the only one. What do you mean he's the only one? Where's everybody else? Where's all the content creators? And it's like that to me, at least especially getting, young people into the game, getting new customers in, getting new players, getting people to be just as passionate as we are today because we grew up with the game. this is a perfect time to get nieces and nephews and sons and daughters into this game now, because they can watch awesome content like Sir HeroScapes and Mines and Battlescapes and WhoScapes and their scapes and everyone's scapes. And they can see. We have to show them that, from RoseScaper, yes, it is easy to paint. And from Battlescape, yes, you can play the game not just, with the point system being the way it is at ScapeCon, because the video came out today and I thought it was pretty cool. I like the point system that they do for Battlescape, but and then you can watch Joe Crazy's content and see, oh my god, I didn't realize the videos could be so loud. We have to show the people, we have to show them what this community is and what it's all about, and essentially, I hate using this word because I don't feel like I am one, but I eventually will be, influence on what this community is like.
I think you're already
it should be. Right, but
and so no. So here's the thing. Actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but every once in a while I've been known to argue with people. But I got in a fight with somebody the other day where I was like, listen, you have a position in this community, and you can choose to use that to influence new people who are coming on board, or you can just keep being mean and defending these people who are mean, and it's not going to scale up. And it's not an ultimatum. It's not me presenting it. I just feel like I should tell you this. Like, we should all be doing what we do, or want to do. Sorry, let me restart that sentence. We should all be trying our best to grow this game that we love. And I will say, kind of coming back full circle, because you talked about playing with kids. I had a friend bring over his son, 8 years old, and we played some games in our house last week. And dude, playing games with that kid and seeing a game through the eyes of a kid who's so excited, rejuvenated my love for the game. Like, if I was burnt out at all before that, I wasn't anymore. Because he was looking through my boxes of minis, and he saw this little figure that somebody had given me, and it was a 3D printed Clayface, the Batman villain. And he's like, "Oh, it's like a sand monster. I want one like this." I was like, "Why don't you just take it?" And he's like, "I don't know how to paint it." So we literally stepped outside in the Texas heat, and we spray primed it. And then we came back outside in half an hour, we brought it inside, and I taught him how to use contrast paints. And it looks great. If an 8-year-old can do that, if you are on the fence about this minute game being unpainted, and you're worried about it, please understand that 8-year-old did a kick-ass job. You can probably paint better than that 8-year-old if you apply yourself, I promise. Right? Not that he did a bad job, but it's not as scary as you think. There are just so many people like that who want to get into the game, who would love to get into the game. I don't know. I'm really excited to see just this game be available again. I think we have such a wonderful opportunity to get it on tables and have people see, play, and say, I want to get into that. And then you just point to a box on the shelf that isn't, you're not putting to an eBay listing with $300 dragons or $200 palm trees. You're saying, go pick that up off the shelf, and maybe it is still $200, but it has a whole lot of figures and a table full of terrain. You know what? That's awesome.
On that subject of the younger generation, Joe, you met Aiden and Jaden that came to the last Salisbury event.
Yep.
Jaden's 14 and Aiden is 9 or 10, around that age. But he came to the DC tournament. He drove three hours with me and my brother to go to the DC tournament last month, and it was reverse the whip, So he's playing with he loves Grimnack. He calls him Eater of Squads. That's his name on the forums if he ever gets on the forums. And then some heavy growth. So it didn't turn out too well for him, but he was having a blast, man. Ben, the guy that was organizing the DC event that day, he built some repertoire with Aiden real quick before the game, and then I got lined up with Aiden on the first match, and he's just yelling at Ben the whole time across the store, like, Ben, I got one, and then he got me, and he's naming all of his heavy gruts different names and stuff. It's just awesome to see that, for sure.
That's amazing.
Lex, you mentioned the Lisa Frank collection for HeroScape. My 3-year-old has a whole NGC. There's a line of it that's just painted in iridescent and not matching colors at all. So I'll have to.
That's amazing. I'd love to see that. And you actually know the kid I'm talking about, Tyler. He loves. He and his brother love the bellhop. We haven't shown that off yet. but we've seen this from the figure. They love that. Like it was a home run for them, even if they looked closer at it, it'd be a little scary. But they love that figure. That's amazing. Yeah,
It's
pretty good.
yeah.
No, so I do want to kind of try to wrap this up with 2 questions I want to ask y'all. But before we get into that, is anything else anyone wanted to say?
I think the last thing would be that although from our perspective something is changing and it's going from painted to not painted, for the new hobbyist that's coming in to the board game store, they play D&D. They've been thinking about getting into war games. They're not completely like sold on their options yet. Painting is sometimes not like they don't expect it to be pre-painted in this day and age. And for a lot of people, painting is something, at least a lot of people, I think that Renegade's audience is at this point. Painting is something that they're interested in, that they're excited in getting to try for themselves. And HeroScape is going to be such a good avenue for that. Versus the other competitors, I think, on the shelves, like Marvel Crisis Protocol. There's a couple of other easy to start, easy to play war games, but I don't think any of them have quite the expansiveness or the something for everyone quality that HeroScape has. So if Renegade can pull this off, I think they might be able to really make a name for themselves in this particular sphere. Again, we'll be curious to see how Renegade tackles really like their first war game, as opposed to like their large board game, card game selection. But I think there's a lot of potential for the new audience in this game. I hope they get to fall in love with it as much as we have in our own ways.
Absolutely, 100%. And just while because you mentioned Marvel Crisis Protocol, I'm so glad that this game doesn't need to be assembled. I'm so glad it's not sprue based. Marvel's Crisis Protocol is often like recommended to people as an entry-level war game. There are standard-sized Marvel Crisis Protocol characters whose heads are split into 4 parts you need to glue together. I don't ever want to do that for HeroScape. I'm so blessed. I would, but I don't want to.
Isn't there a figure whose like fist and knuckles are 2 different pieces as well?
That's
That's
probably true. And for so long they were like, no, you don't understand. It's because of mold lines. How does Games Workshop figure it out then?
Right.
Anyway. Sorry.
They sell you a $10 piece of metal that's a mold line remover is how.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything you want to say before we move on to these last couple questions?
I would like to say something because this is kind of dear for me. There is no orange faction in HeroScape, and I was so happy to see Revna be represented as orange, and I was very happy about that. And I don't know if you guys remember because they didn't change it on the website because they don't change anything on the website until months later. But they were changing Revna to beige. Does anyone remember that?
I do.
And so I'm curious and scared that they're gonna change all of because we don't know what was happening after that because they were making a lot of changes like that. The whole card debacle was really last minute as well. Even though we got to participate in that, but that was a whole debacle, which will still be a debacle because I'm sure that won't change the way we actually really want it. And that so I really hope they stick with the orange. I may have to start talking about that to try to gain some traction to keep the orange and not go beige.
I'm about to present myself as Joe Crazy's nemesis. The orange on it. No. Let me finish. The orange on its own would be fine. Having neon green and red and orange on top of green terrain is designed to antagonize the colorblind. Stop doing that. Literally 5% of, or what's like 5 to 7% of men in America are colorblind. Like, have you ever run the Age of Annihilation promo images through a colorblind simulator? It's like an assault on the senses. It's crazy. Like they didn't even remember those people existed. It's nuts. Like it's all green red. So anytime you have like shades of like green and red into browns and oranges, it's a little rough. And you can do one or two of those colors, but when you like have a bunch of them that are so close to each other, it's really rough. So I'm not saying Rebna has to change, but if we don't change Rebna to beige, can we like maybe change Vorak to a shaded blue or Jandar to white? Because he's like Vorak was green and blue, right? Wasn't that their thing? We can't have so many greens, reds, and oranges.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that
Brown.
because there's a lot of video games now are adding features that they change the colors for colorblind, and so I never really thought about that when it came to board games. So that's a really interesting point. Yeah, I don't even know what you would do with that honestly, because regardless of what you do, because we talk about whole painting, but well, then how do you? I mean, obviously these games are made for the masses, but yeah, I don't know. That's tough.
If you're colorblind and you have to paint the entire Age of Annihilation box set, most people would prefer to just kill themselves on live television.
Don't
Joe,
worry.
that was a
Joe,
joke. That wasn't serious.
I'm sure the
No.
Transformers will be orange.
I know that joke. I'm just saying. I'm still going through my head about the whole colorblind stuff.
I say keep Vorak as orange, and then either change, or sorry, Rebna is orange, thank you, and then either change Vorak to like a darker blue, or change man, there are different names for generals, and I can't keep it together today.
Yandor.
Make Utgar dark gray instead of red. That's his other color motif. So choose the other color in the motif so we don't have. Because Vidar's like that bluish gray, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's light. It's like a light blue. Yeah.
I mean, if you make Utgar just black, it's hard to see details. But.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that. Huh.
Another thing I think worth keeping in mind as well is that for a good majority of the player base who's cracking this open for the first time, the intent is to be able to play right out of the box.
Right.
And so, for instance, Games Workshop miniatures come on a sprue, but they also come in sort of a very inoffensive shade of gray, which is not very exciting to look at and not very... It doesn't feel finished when you're playing with them, just, gray on black bases. So some of the color choices here are not only what the general's color, code or color symbol is, but it's also what is going to still feel like a fun mini to have, even if you don't paint it before you play. And I do think beige is a bad choice for that. But I would love for them to tinker a little bit and find I am fond of orange for Revna, but I'm sure both in the real minis and the digital renders, which are worse than the real minis, I would imagine, they could tinker and find something that's going to have better contrasts. Just change the shade until it makes sense. Would probably be my 2 cents.
I will say I really like the marigold yellow orange kind of thing they had going on for Aquila that you can see in the Vorag Breaker picture they took. I think that color's great.
Yeah.
I'm curious what color they would use for Thorman if that becomes a real thing.
Well, obviously white is so different from beige.
Right. Yeah. But that looks kind of... I guess if it's Thorman and that's kind of like his stick, then I guess that makes sense. I was thinking 14 karat like metallic gold, but that's just because I like Thorman.
I can't separate this from the colors that I definitely haven't seen a Thorman card in ever before. So it's hard for me to answer this question. So, yeah, but all right. So I do have 2 questions for y'all quick. Let's try to get through these and then wrap this up for an episode that doesn't take 2 hours for once. We were talking a little bit about what design under Renegade looks like. Are there elements that we've already seen in any capacity, be it in classic HeroScape, be it in VC, be it in something like C3G, or any other customs creator, that you'd really like to see more of in HeroScape? Do you want to see more of kind of what we're used to? Do you want to see things that are a little outside the box? What do you want to see? Let's go around the table. And I understand... I'm going to preface this by saying I understand that everyone here but Joe Crazy is involved in the same custom group in some capacity. So I recognize our answers will be a little biased, but I'm still curious to see what the answer is. What do you want from official HeroScape?
I'll start off first since we're all thinking.
Do it.
I really like. I think there's a lot of underused parts of the card that aren't utilized. Like, there's not enough initiative-based powers. Like, there's the gladiators, and that's kind of just thrown on there. Like, initiative, I think, should be more of an important power based on the game. And I think really just fun characters. Something that's kind of like, okay, I could see me playing this. Maybe it's not the most like viable, but at least it's thematic. And I'm really big on a really, for me at least, theme comes first, and you kind of work out the mechanics last. Is kind of how I process customs. I'm like, okay, this is the concept. How do I make this power separate from, if it's just a double attack 9 range character, you just Tavares, like let's really feel free to be weird and kind of make some wacky things, and not complicated, but maybe like, I think terrain is definitely something also really big. It's a big part of the game, but not a big part of the powers. I'd love to see more of that, and some more open-ended kind of army building. I love how you can have the Native Americans with snakes, and so with that, and they still kind of fit together, but it at least gives you some ideas of what you'd like to do.
That's a great answer. I have no notes. Excellent answer, Rogue.
A+, yes.
Who's next?
I'll go ahead.
All right, let's go. Let's go, Cody.
I remember we were talking about the whole topic of common squads versus unique squads earlier, to Joe's point, saying, as I know Joe's been playing in the tournament scene a lot more recently, in person and whatnot. And what I've noticed is that's very true. Like, back when I was a kid, we didn't have multiples of the same common and whatnot. But I do think that's an important aspect of the game. What I would like to see going forward is more. What comes to mind when you think of top tier armies? Usually is bonding melee, right? That's usually like one of the first things you think of. Well, I think bonding is great because it kind of speeds up the game. It adds a lot of obvious synergy, which is great for newer players. That's usually what I start them off with, is something like that, or Vipers because they're fun. But I think having bonding powers that have trade-offs would be much more beneficial. As like for example, the axe grinders, they have their dwarven strategic bonding, so you get +2 move if you don't bond with a hero, which sometimes you don't need to. But also there's times where like that decision point makes the game much more interesting than it otherwise would have been, with just straight up bonding where you put all your order markers on one card. You don't got to worry about it. But I'd like to see more of that going forward, more trade-off bonding type powers.
Okay. And it's actually really interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just thinking earlier, and I don't want to give my whole answer right now, but I'm just, when somebody said it, or when Rogue said initiative, I was thinking of the dwarves, and I was literally thinking about Axe Grinders Milgram. And I think the Axe Grinders are really interesting in that they present a choice to you, and that you can either bond or you can move farther. And Milgram is really uninteresting in that he affects initiative, which is cool, but he does it for having the X order marker, which doesn't cost you anything. It's not a choice at all. It just says, by the way, you're not playing anything with the X order marker, so you get this much added to your initiative. As long as you have the X Rider, it's not a choice.
I kind of disagree, saying 2 months ago, or maybe 3 months ago, I would have agreed that the X order marker is nothing, but that's not. I guess it depends. Like, if you're running just Axe Grinders Milgram, then yeah.
That's what I meant.
You're not using your X. But yeah,
I don't mean the X is nothing.
Grinders. Yeah, but like the Axe Grinders are like in a lot of like ScapeCon events, actually, that are gonna happen. Like, taking 2 times Axe Grinders and maybe a hero is an option, and like mixing up your order markers there may be important depending on what else you have, in a pod style army like that.
Sorry.
Yeah,
what
like
I meant,
X is a great fake out.
What I meant is stop presenting choices that aren't choices.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Choices lead to interesting gameplay. Choices where there's always a correct answer and you never pick the other one aren't choices.
Yeah.
That's all I meant by it.
Like bonding melee.
Yeah. But no, otherwise I would agree with you. I do think the XR marker is valuable.
Let's see. There's already been, I mean, almost everything that Rogue said, I think I completely agree with. So I don't want to like retread ground, but I think a couple of things I'd love to see from Renegade would be to keep it weird when it comes to their like army choices. To be honest, like it makes sense to me that Scape would eventually get into this territory where they start merging genre tropes to make some kind of like very odd hybrids, merging steampunk and the obligatory cute world together. I'm not sure how that came about, but it fits a brand of weird that like Atlaga and Gorillinators and Doomed also like fit with. So I hope they kind of keep up that flavor that Scape has, that ability to like do things in genre that no other game can like conceivably sell. And then I think right in hand with that is continuing that kind of commentary on tropes that HeroScape tends to do. Back in 2004, it's very basic ones: Vikings, killer robots, secret agents, a la the Matrix, and so on and so forth. Now we're getting into a little bit more like pop culture territory. Like the Scoredire are very much the Zerg and alien xenomorphs and Starship Troopers and Tyranids. So like I love that they're continuing to kind of represent certain tropes in pop culture. I just hope they keep kind of continuing to do that to some extent. The last thing that I would love to see would just be, I hope we get a continuation of the story to some extent, beyond just here's new units to play with. Even if it was very tangential, like in the Lore Daily project I'm running over in the Renegade chat, it is all like the back of a box somewhere. This TV commercial that was made in 2004, this Gen Con comic book, this lost scenario description. These are the pieces that comprise HeroScape lore, but I do hope Renegade continues in any small way to continue telling us what's happening in the Age of Annihilation, what's going on in Valhalla, who are these new characters, why should we care about them, and if they manage to string it together into any kind of narrative, then that's probably more than we really ever got with classics. So I would love to see a little bit of attention from them as they continue to deliver Age of Annihilation and beyond what we've seen from Vanguard Edition.
I want to see more HeroScape TV spots where we figure out who's poisoning who with various confections. Also, I want to see what it's like now that Sergeant Drake is an adult, because we've had that 10-year time skip, so now we know that Sergeant Drake is at least 27. He's no longer a kid who just tried to lie on his paperwork. Joe's trying to figure out if I'm serious again.
Yep.
It's a fun game.
We were talking over on the server earlier today, and I was like, we actually don't have any proof that Sergeant Drake is an adult, because there were so many people in World War II who just like lied about their age to get overseas. And if you like look at all the actual pictures we have of Sergeant Drake's face, he's like not really that aged. Even the Age of Annihilation art. And in at least the Swarm of the Morrow mini, his clothes are really baggy. Which also he's been at war and probably didn't bring other clothes with him. But like it's just kind of funny to think that like after 10 years of Age of Annihilation, Sergeant Drake is now at the ripe old age of 27. So
Feel it.
Yeah.
Well, you could answer. You might have be honest with them there. Wouldn't the answer lie within Craig Van Ness? Didn't he name Sergeant Drake after his kid or someone's kid? I feel like it was named after a kid.
If he's named after someone, he's named after someone's kid, I guess. But
yeah, right. What if they're our age, 27? That'd be kind of crazy.
Joe Crazy, what do you think? What do you want to see in new design?
In new designs, yeah. I mean, I agree with everybody. I think
Controversial.
I think seeing more things with pips using the little colored icons, having limited abilities like the grenade, from the Airborne Elite. stuff like that, or even be able to like, I'm trying to think who was it recently. Oh yeah, the can't think of it now, but yeah, more pit based stuff would be really cool.
The markers.
Uh, yeah, the markers. Um,
It's so funny
also
you said
more.
icons.
I'm gonna be more descriptive with the terrain stuff that Rogue was talking about. Um, so having some kind of character that can camouflage themselves next to bushes. So specifically only for bushes. Or for example, I would love to see a second version of Deadeye Dan, where he has a new sniper rifle. The scope on it has some kind of like heat seeking, not heat seeking, but like it sees through everything. Like he can snipe through any terrain as long as he's in range. He can shoot it. It's still weak as hell, but he can see through it all. Like he just knows. He can see your outline. He knows where you are.
You're suggesting Allers enhanced rifles?
Yes. Yes.
I have a draft somewhere for someone. I can't remember what the powers were, but it's like they obstacles don't block line of fire for them. I think that'd be funny to have like a heat seeking kind of thing going on. You get Deadeye Dan with like the RPG or whatever, and he can shoot through barriers because he doesn't care about. I think that's funny. I don't know if that's.
Isn't
Sorry,
isn't Volorak or Hawkland? Is Hawkland like where the it's like a place where they're known for making things, right? In Valhalla, is that correct? Wouldn't it be cool if he like switched sides to whatever faction is from like Hawkland or whatever one? I don't know if there's any connections to that.
We know Volorak's a crafter too now.
Yeah. So okay. So Volorak. What if Deadeye Dan switched to Volorak and it's Volorak's enhanced rifle or something crazy like that?
I literally said that the other week in the Renegade server, and everybody's like, "No, because he's OR enhanced and he's the OR colors." I was like, "Yeah, but Volorak didn't exist." So I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And he kind of looks like a bandit that would switch sides. At the same time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted him to be. I mean, once I got the Cowboys, I wanted him to be a cowboy. Yeah. So. But if you can get a little bit more steampunk and get some kind of like cool enhanced, like not even like a new like rifle, but like maybe he gets glasses so that he can see everything. Gets some kind of headgear.
He looks like Kopaka from Bionicle. He's just got the 3 scopes on his head.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 2.0s. Those are my favorite design concepts of taking something existing and like how do we kind of buff this up or make it like seem like there's some kind of progression over the character. Those are my favorite ones to design in the HeroScape brand land.
Evil Raylan.
Reprints are a controversial topic, but one thing I can really get behind is the 2.0s, just because that allows the new group of players that are coming in to be acquainted with who these people are and to be connected to their storylines to some extent. And really like introduces them to the new story in a certain way. It also makes them playable with Renegade-scape in a certain way. Even if you can't bring your 4 squads of 4th Mass to the Renegade World Championships, you'll still be able to have a Surgeon Drake. You'll still be able to have a Raylan, a Sonlin. And it would be a really neat way to tell that story of 10 years later by showing, where Agent Carr or Deadeye Dan or Savaris have ended up, in Valhalla's modern day and age.
This is a hot take. I don't think reprints are that controversial with most people. I think they're most controversial with people who can't understand that there aren't people like them. Like there are people who aren't like them. Because I feel like everybody in this community is used to having everything. And again, we think that when HeroScape gets bigger, we're just going to magically clone ourselves into a community that's made up of us, but times 10. Like you're going to have all these people coming in who are like, I'd love to have the axe scrubbers. That'd be very cool. We're going to be like, oh, sorry, we don't want to buy them, so that means there's no value in printing them for you. I think people make noise about it, but I suspect that Renegade would do just fine doing like a box set of commons to reprint once a year, and then a box set of uniques that get reprinted once a year. I'm not saying I don't want 2.0s, but I don't think reprints are as controversial as. I think we're just really loud. I think we all channel Joe crazy a little bit when reprints come in. I'm like, I don't want my Zell rig to be cheaper. It's like it's not gonna be. It's still gonna be unique and pre-painted. They're not gonna make more Zell rigs just like the one you have. It's fine. We can make more Zell rigs that are unpainted. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, even if they do reprints and like, I mean, obviously people are gonna be mad where they're like, oh, the reprints, but they're gonna be like red for Ukar and they're gonna be green for Ular. So it's like, but if they did the reprints, like right, and they did it, made it look like better sculpts. I mean, yeah, why not? But what if they just did the reprints as 2.0s? So let's say every wave we get one new reprint of something.
That'd be a good way to introduce some balancing too. Just like, oh, here's done 2.0. Pretty much the same. It's an unpainted model, but we gave it disengage now. Now it's now it's slightly usable, and I would love to repaint the original line of HeroScape, just like with slightly altered models, and just kind of have those. That sounds like that's exciting. That's I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, they don't have the molds anymore, so it would be new sculpts, even if they're supposed to look like the old ones. But Chad, you're last, right? What do you think? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's me.
Oh, jeez.
Or do you want me to go
so
first?
many good answers. No, that's fine. I'll go next. Geez, so many good answers already, especially with terrain and everything. I already got my biggest wish, sanctioned play events. That was nice to get confirmed. I think what I want to see in HeroScape is I want to see greater complexity in faction building. Like,
Sure.
because personally, I think that bonding is the most rewarding ability in the game. I love it. You can't put, Pandora back in the box. You have the fourth mass. You have squads. You already have that. So your options are either A, you make a hero that is just ungodly powerful and can stomp things without the help of squads, or you make heroes that squads can bring into the mix. Like, in my mind, a faction that is just on the cusp of greatness in Classic Scape are the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
You can put so many random figures in Roman armies. I'd like to see figures that have synergy across like 3, 4, 5 armies. I'd like to see factions that are useless in Classic Scape, usable in a 1v1 format where we don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff about restrictions because we just gave them cool tools that they have access to. Oh, like say orcs, for example, even though orcs are great, say that, they're never ever going to win a game against fourth mass. Well, now they can because we gave them a unit that can segue into their army and give them a meaningful tool or a meaningful choice. And along with that, like somebody else said earlier, abilities that make choices matter. X marker choices don't really feel like they matter most of the time. I would just straight up disagree. It doesn't matter for mixing order markers generally, unless you're playing in a heroes event or some special format. X order marker powers don't matter that much unless you have multiple X order marker powers in your army. If you had 3 heroes, your Romans can activate each of them, and they each have a hugely different capacity, and they all use an X order marker power. Suddenly, we've created a really cool, well-oiled machine that can deal with a bunch of different situations moderately and in a very limited capacity. And you just made a faction that was kind of okay, able to compete with stuff that is really good by just adding more cool stuff to the game. That's kind of what I'd like to see.
I think you nailed it. That's a better version of the answer that I gave. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see too.
So
I want to see factions that were bad. That's why I got into VCs. Makes factions that were bad more playable. That's pretty.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I wrote down a little shopping list for my answer, and actually for my first part of this answer, I want to kind of refute what shiftrex just said. I think you can actually put the genie back in the bottle a little bit by sanctioning a Renegade HeroScape only format. So I would really like to see, until we have a better scope of available units, a faction that's more new player friendly and that they don't have to hunt for units that are 13 to 20 years out of print. And I think what that actually leads to are really interesting opportunities to make units that could not necessarily thrive in the classic metagame, but can in a more limited metagame. Like Krug, for example, is a unit that was really, really cool for a long ass time, and now he's just kind of okay. He's not bad. He's playable, but he's not what he was for the first year and a half of the game. You know what I mean? So I think you get opportunities like that. But generally, I would agree with you. I'd like to see more archetypes diversified. I hope they don't spend too much time in the first couple of years supporting old classic stuff without actually reprinting that classic stuff. Because what new player wants to get the Swag Rider that has bulletproof armor so the fourth mass can't kill it right away when they don't have arrow guts to go with it? But that's just kind of a bummer for those people, and I don't think it's great for building a game. Which is fine, just reprint the arrow guts.
I'll butt back in with one final note on reprints before we move on to the wrap up. But that is one of the biggest things with reprints, is that it makes sense for us old nostalgia fans who are like hunting on eBay. But I'm not sure everything that we would want reprinted would make sense. At least a straight up reprint, no 2.0, just the original unit would make sense for the rest of AOA's lineup when you consider that the new player is only going to have what Renegade's releasing. Right. And it's like, what are they going to do with just axe grinders? I guess maybe you have Dorum they could bond with potentially.
That's cool though.
Look, but like, yeah, if it works, but like some of the stuff that we would want reprinted, what are you going to do with like Morrow squads if you don't have like the accompanying heroes and accompanying other stuff from Classic that would go with that in the first place? So it's like, if they do reprints, I hope it's what's going to make sense in Age of Annihilation's new lineup, not what's currently like selling high for eBay for collectors.
There's stuff I think that you could print that's in demand and hard to get that still stands on its own. Like Morrow dividers do not need a large network of Morrow support. Right? Like those would be a cool thing to reprint. There's something you want to buy a ton of. Like they literally lend themselves to you owning like 6 to 8 copies. Right? The Ashigaru, for example, like they're not even really that good. They probably wouldn't impress a new metagame. People still really want them, and they're still, for some reason, crazy expensive. And you just have to figure out how Hasbro can copyright all of Asian history. And then they can reprint the Ashigaru, no problem. But moving down my list, absolutely agree that there should be more X-Order mechanics that are choices. And part of how you could do this is by, for example, having a faction where multiple people want to see the X-Order marker. So which one you put the X-Order marker on is a choice, and it results in different outcomes. I'd like to see flip cards. This is something Arena that Planeswalkers played with. Kill the basic side. If you want to play basic HeroScape with your kids, you can just do that using the advanced stats. You can just play basic with those stats. 4-year-olds don't care. They want to roll dice and they want to see the big dinosaur. It's not going to hurt them. And once you're 8 or 9, your kid can probably understand a fair number of advanced units. Just pull those ones out. Will they have a hard time understanding the intricacies of Ornak bonding? Sure, but there's plenty of units in HeroScape that they can get to play with. Just use your head. We don't need the basic side. Use the other side for cool stuff and people who transform into werewolves. Or, for example, Transformers would be a cool property that Renegade can never get a hold of, but would be neat to see in HeroScape, right?
Pipe dream.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream. Print more playable, unique heroes that aren't just there to prop up the commons. Like, I'm sick of seeing... It was a thing that was really popular in Classic, and unfortunately has continued to be popular with a lot of the custom groups, which is just like a unique hero, which is just designed to add a little bit of flavor to the common they want you to run 4 of. Stop doing that. You can run cool, unique heroes that, even if they're played alongside commons, aren't just there to complement the commons, right? Explore more settings. I really love what's going on in Age of Annihilation. I think it could just be the start. And I understand that there are costs to creating settings and environments and new worlds, and that's not lost on me. But just go ahead and make more cool stuff. I'd love to see more of it. I think there are concepts like the Eisenach, which you can't really flesh too much further into. Honestly, I think maybe you get 10 units out of those guys, but just make more cool settings like that. Don't worry about getting 30 units out of the Ironclad Collective. Just go on to another setting. Go into more unit synergies that aren't exactly obvious. Early HeroScape was rife with this. You had the Romans who cared about warlords, and what better Roman warlords there than an alien horror from outer space with a gun on a skeleton horse? That everybody knows that that's what Roman history was. That's why their empire spread the known world. Last, better 2.0s. Stop using 2.0s as nerfs and slight rebalances. I want 2.0s to be an evolution of the character. And to that point, I think Craig Van Ness was on the right track with this, because I don't know if y'all remember, when they did the Hasbro stream for Age of Annihilation, he was talking about Sergeant Drake he mentioned this really cool mechanic where instead of Sergeant Drake using the grappling hook to move around, because why wouldn't he do that? He has a damn jetpack. He used the grappling hook to pull people towards him. It was an evolution of the Sergeant Drake grappling hook concept. That's cool. Giving Raylan Whirlwind Assault is boring. That's just a fix for the mistake you already made. And that's fine, but you can do better. Joe, you know they can do better. You know that these people are more creative than this. I'm not saying don't ever nerf thing. I'm just saying that, like, yes, it's cool that we have a Raylan that has a fair aura, but could we have found something interesting to put on top of that? Because Sergeant Drake in that set was also just kind of a nerf. Like, he was just kind of a patch. He didn't do anything, too exciting. So I just think we can do a little bit better with 2.0s, and then I will just see more 2.0s, and do 2.0s of the weird stuff. I don't need to make Dund good. I think Dund's scary if he's actually good. That's a game I don't want to play. But would I love to see, I don't know, me Berksod too? Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be fun. Like, dig deep in the barrel. There's some really cool unique heroes that were popular that I'd love to see new versions of. So that's my list. I only want a couple things. I'm not too picky. But, that's what I would really like to see from HeroScape 2. Which I'm just going to call Renegade Escape. It's that from now on.
Make things more overpowered.
Yes, 100%.
Don't make
Let's
them
do it.
balanced.
Let's
Don't
do
make
it.
them balanced.
Let's pump it up. A+ figures.
Renegade announces
Go.
the 5th mass.
I mean, you say that, but like, when people are like, well, how are they going to compensate if they don't use Delta for all of the weirdness that exists in classic? And it's like, they're at Renegade Organized Play. There's at least going to be one game mode, if not the whole thing, where you can't use the original stuff. You'll just be limited to what new players can buy on shelves. So they won't have these problems. They're starting from scratch in a competitive nature. And they have the opportunity not to make some mistakes that have been made before. That's most of the thought.
All right. Well, here's my second question. This one's way faster, I promise. Who would you put on the new development team who has never worked on official HeroScape before? If you can name any figure in this community or even who's designed other games, I don't care. If you're a masochist and you say Mark Rosewater, that's fine. It's an answer. I don't like it, but it's an answer. Everybody's thinking. Everybody's looking around.
Yeah, I'm not really a guy that I know I've been starting to learn the community, but I don't know who's made stuff.
Sure.
So if I had to, let's say, Michael Bay, all explosions. Just have things just explode, more explosions. Would be like my meme answer.
Michael Bay
because I
designs the
don't really
Transformer
know
set. That's cool.
that too.
I likewise don't have much experience in the community. Again, having just discovered that people kept playing this game and talking about it online for 10 years while it was gone. But I think if I had to nominate someone to get to continue working on the line, I really, from the limited amount that I know, I really enjoy what Carmine was doing back in Age of Annihilation. I appreciate that he reach out to community members and try to get them involved in the product. I appreciate that he went combing through the internet trying to figure out all the scraps of this story so that he could start to like try and construct a legitimate sounding continuation of it. I think the work was there to like try and take this from something that was half a toy line and half a war game back in the early 2000s, and change that into something that would like continue to sell for modern audiences in the hobby environment. If not increment, I'd love to see at least some of that energy from whoever ends up in that seat.
Let me rewind this for a minute, because I feel like two different people, which means I didn't ask the question right, because I think both you and Joe were answering different things. Who is someone who has never worked on official HeroScape who you would like to see on the team? Not lead, it doesn't have to be leading it, right? Just that you would like to see based on their contributions to the community in any capacity. Is it design? Is it event organization? Huh?
I changed my answer to Rogue.
Yeah.
I think Rogue's got the amateur hobbyist at heart. Great video content would be a great part of the team. Would love to see it.
Absolutely. Joe, do you change your answer at all that then? Sorry, Rogue, I didn't cut you off. I'm going to come back to Joe, because I think that Joe probably does have an answer if he thinks about all the people he's interacted with. But Rogue, go ahead. We'll hit Joe last.
More of a broad answer of like what I would want someone on the team to be. I think we need some new blood, new ideas. Someone who's really just gets the game, though, is so I'm be more generic in this answer, but someone who gets the game, gets the appeal of it, because this game is at a weird, it's a weird nexus of collectible hobby and an actual interactive game you can play. So someone who kind of gets it, someone who's a little wacky and who isn't like willing to kind of be what impossible idea can we make? I don't have a name for that person, but I want someone who wants to push the boundaries of this game and really creative and really cares about this as an individual IP, not as something we can add things onto. So I don't know who that person is, but maybe it's someone here.
Well, these are softball answers, so I'm just going to go ahead and give mine and be really specific. I would really like to see, actually, this is kind of a curveball. If I had to name someone who I didn't know already played HeroScape, Eric Lang and Mike Elliott, I think, are two really interesting game designers who keep getting pushed onto like weird WizKids games until they quit. I would love to see them. They have some phenomenal games. Mage Knight comes to mind, the 2011-2012 reboot or whatever. That game was great and kind of had some like, I don't just say that because it had hexes, but like that's the kind of designer that I would love to see. Believe it or not, Scott Gata, for anybody who hasn't looked, has some phenomenal games. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that right, Gata. In his repertoire. The games that he helped work on for Decipher and then moving on from there, all really good. Like the Lord of the Rings card game from the 2000s seems like it would be like a cash-in, like a cash grab product. It's absolutely great. If you ever get the chance to try it out, try it. Inside the community, I would really love for them to just go outside of left field and pick one of the C3G guys. There's so much weird stuff going on there that like I feel like there are George Lucas-esque creative types that have like these insane ideas where as long as you had somebody to like pull them back a little, you'd end up with really cool concepts. That would be my answer, I guess. But I still want to hear from Cody and Chad.
Yeah, I think my answer, I'm having trouble coming up with one person because there's so many people.
Name a couple. That's better than none.
Yeah, there's a few. What comes to mind is like, okay, so I have basically zero experience designing any units or games or anything like that, other than like little stuff I did when I was a kid, I guess, like design your own cards or whatever. But thinking more outside of that, like if I needed someone to come aboard from the community, if I was voting for someone that was going to come on and like do storytelling, that was their position, it would probably be Ryan, Tales of Valhalla. If it was someone that needed to be more lore focused, I guess that kind of still falls into storytelling. Maybe Jeremy. If you need a hype man, there's no one better than Joe Crazy. Yeah, I mean, There's a few other people that come to mind. Like Mike, you want someone that knows their way in and out of competitive play and event organization? Because can't think of anyone outside of that. I'm sure there are others, but I mean, yeah, that's what comes to my mind.
Good answers.
Yeah. I think I'm too boggled by the idea with your question, Lex, was that it was like, okay, what was your favorite customs creator to work on this next project that didn't work on Age of Annihilation? Like that was me like, oh well, I don't know, you know.
No, not just customs.
That's what I was thinking.
Event organization. You could do lore. You could do. I mean, there's a lot of facets of games, right? Like you could do character design, right? Those are all reasonable. Those are all reasonable roles that I'm asking. Like, is there somebody that you would love to see doing one of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Cody just said Mike, you know, and I know he wants to be a big time lawyer, but you know, like he's been out front, you know, hosting these huge tournaments for and bringing so many scapers together. You know, if they don't reach out to him and his team to find out, like, okay, well, we want to do tournaments. How do you guys do tournaments? And at least get him as a reference. And I'm saying if they don't, they're nuts. They're insane. Because he is the head of that right now. So, and I think a lot of people outside doing these other tournaments have to be looking at ScapeCon and all the experience with Gen Con before ScapeCon and look at that and go, okay, well, that's the default. Like, how do we expand on this? And then when it comes to you know, lore, I mean, like I said, I'm just stealing it from you, Cody. I honestly just I was focused there. My question was focused me in this direction, and I was waiting for everyone else to talk, and then I realized, oh, that's what the question was. You know, obviously Jeremy, they should hire Jeremy instantly. I don't know why are they waiting? What are they waiting for? Just make a job description, make a job for Jeremy to do.
Have Jeremy make a commercial, a stop motion commercial, and you're set. You're good to go.
Not even that. He just hire him to write and do lore stuff.
Wait, does Jeremy do stop motion? I thought that was Ryan.
No, Ryan does.
Oh, Ryan.
Yeah,
Ryan.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. They're pretty much like a huge team for you know. Obviously, Ryan does all of the handiwork with Tales of Valhalla. And a majority of the writing, Jeremy was the guy that came in to make sure that everything that Ryan wanted to and tell was somewhat accurate. And if it wasn't accurate, how can I make it work for the story I want to tell? And so Jeremy was the spine to the entire body. So yeah, get him in there. And obviously, yes, for marketing, yes, have me up front telling people about the game, you know, as the hype man.
Joe, what'd you say? I can't hear you. You're really quiet.
What?
You want to do what for HeroScape? Can you speak up?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'm just gonna do like the hype man, and like just tell everybody about the game and how awesome it is, because it's a really awesome game. Can you hear me? Was that good?
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Okay.
All right, Chad, your turn. And bonus points if you don't also say C3G.
Oh, jeez, but I was gonna like name somebody specific too.
Oh, do it. That's fine. That's great.
Oh, you know, I was just gonna say straight up, Bats. I am Batman over on the forum. Most people forget that him and a couple other people from C3G are what created the C3G process. They started all of that, and they've like made so many rules over the years and refined so much stuff, and like how they're revamping 2.0. Like, all jokes aside, we know crossover IPs are going to happen. I'm just going to predict that now, so we can all look back. Yep, Shift was right. Get ready for your Tier 0 MLP armies. They're going to be awesome at Worlds. But I don't know. Like, I'm just going to name him as the major muscle over there. I don't know any other people that could incorporate crossover stuff into a game so seamlessly. embodying different lore, different ideas, different systems that Scape had never touched, and making it fit into the rules in a way that's still completely fun. That would definitely be my pick.
I obviously have a deep respect for Bats, and for those who are tuning in and haven't listened to WhoScape before, we actually got to interview him last episode and talk about him kind of helping to create VC and his contributions in the community. I don't know that he'd be interested in playing with Classic's level of complexity. From the feedback I've heard him give, I don't think he finds it interesting at this point anymore, and that's totally fine. People can grow from games. I do wonder, actually, if he'd want to be involved.
Hey, spoiler, that's why I would want him. I want that complexity. Like, straight up, if I'm playing on Google Docs, I can play, like, other games while I'm playing on Google Docs.
Sure.
It is not a mind stressor. If I'm playing C3G, I actually have to have my full attention. There's a lot more going on the board. I definitely want more complexity. That's a reason that'd be one of my picks.
Okay.
I pick everyone here. That's the ideal team.
Rogue, that's
Oh,
sweet.
jeez. Rogue's nice.
Except for one person who I'm You'll decide amongst yourself who that is.
It's Cody.
Yeah. I'll sacrifice myself. I'm the least talented one here.
I don't think that's true. I think you're new blood. I think you got time to grow yet. You're very talented. You just haven't figured out exactly what your flavor is yet.
I'm really good at commenting on stuff. That's what I'm good.
That's true. You're an excellent commentator, and also the best podcast co-host I could hope to have. So, on that note, thanks everybody for joining. We said we were going to get under 2 hours, and we were lying, but we were only over by like 45 seconds. So, this has been WhoScape. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.